The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
Hello and welcome to the Wrestling to the Max SmackDown Live Review for February 28th, 2017. The last couple of shows that we'll be doing in February, because it'll be March the next time we talk to you officially. So, I am your host, Sean Garmer, and here with me, Paul is sick once again, so he will be on neither one of the shows. You might be listening to 205 Live first or to SmackDown first, whichever you decide here. But Paul's still under the weather, so unfortunately we won't be doing the New Japan show that we talked about yesterday. But we'll still talk about those shows on Thursday. Plus there's a show that they're doing, I think, in about a couple of hours that we'll have to talk about as well. So, Gary, nice to have you here again. Not have to go find somebody.
Yeah, exactly. You had to start looking in the phone book to who can do SmackDown with me, huh? But I'm here. I'm glad to be here. And, this is a SmackDown that I guess I'm glad to be a part of because I got lots to talk about.
Yeah, there was plenty to talk about on this one for sure. But we should probably get started here, as I just realized that the one thing I forgot to do in the time that we were waiting around was to actually put the what happened in the dock there. But why can't I remember right this minute what how they started the show? Oh, was it the Miz TV segment? Yeah, the Miz TV segment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So once again, they had promoted this the week before, so we kind of knew this was happening. We knew that the Harper and AJ Styles match was set to happen, and the thing is that. Oh, I should also note that a lot of this show got changed around because of the presidential address that was happening, I think, 30 minutes into this show. So, the reason why AJ Styles and Luke Harper doesn't main event is because of President Trump having to do his congressional address or whatever. So, we can get into that too. I thought it was kind of dumb that they're once again changing the show around for something else that can also be DVR'd. It's not like you can't DVR the congressional address and watch it later. But, so The Miz comes out to basically do his own address to John Cena. And I thought he did really well in this. I thought he had the right tone. I thought that, we got to find out him being pissed at Cena for he feels like he was holding him down and took his spotlight and all this stuff, I want to say that I thought Miz did a really good job here. Just when Cena starts tearing him down, not to mention that Miz is being a total hypocrite too, because if anybody has ever wanted to be Mr. Hollywood, it's The Miz. But when Cena is tearing him down, he brings up the whole, well, you basically been saying what AJ Styles has been saying for the past 6 months. And that's what it felt like to me. And Cena brings it up again. It's like, oh, you had your moment to come and say something to me, and you say the exact same thing that everybody else says to me now. And, I agreed with that. That I got into a thing on Twitter with he's one of our listeners, and he he was like, well, I don't like the way Cena says things, whatever. I preferred what Miz said, and I was like, look, if Cena hadn't torn him down the way he did, and then kind of brought up some of the things that Miz has done, and that everything that Miz has done has kind of been taking from somebody else, and all this stuff, and I don't think it would have worked if you just had Miz as part of the promo, so then eventually Cena's, I guess, done with everything there, and Marie stops him, says you can't talk to my husband like that, basically, and that, Cena's talks about Cena's package and everything else, and then Nikki comes out, and she just says, I'm going to break you, bitch, and we're going. So, I mean, I thought it was a good ending. Like, it was cool that, I guess, you're really solidifying that tag match that we've been hearing so much about. And even later, there's a promo segment with Cena and Nikki. And then Carmella and James Ellsworth show up, and they have a little interaction there that's kind of funny. And pretty much they're going to have a trial mixed tag match with James Ellsworth and Carmella next week. And it'll be the first time we ever get to see John Cena and Nikki Bella do anything together in the ring. So that's kind of cool, I guess, if you're interested in that. But what'd you think of this opening part of SmackDown?
I was okay with this because, like you said, I mean, it was something that was relevant. It's The Miz, and I personally, I like when I hear The Miz talk about certain things, and, this is one of them, and that's about, his opportunities that have been lost, and, of course, this whole deal with John Cena. I think The Miz does pretty well for himself, so I have no qualms with that. I think it was great. John Cena does his thing normally, and we'll get what we get out of that. This is my thing, and I understand, you're talking about the listener who, kind of just didn't like what John Cena was saying. And I'm a little bit 50-50. I think that John Cena saying what he did about The Miz being very real. I think Miz and John Cena kind of breaking that whole, barrier of, real and fake is good. And it's something that I think needs to happen more often in wrestling. But the one thing I will say is I just hate that John Cena says that same line to every wrestler that gets in the ring. You guys have been saying the same thing to me for a decade. Da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, stop, Cena. Look, we get it. You like to troll the fans. Vince taught you how to do it very well. Okay, you control the fans by repeating what they see on the dirt sheets. I get it, man. Just go out and attack The Miz with verbal things outside of that. It's like, John.
But he does afterwards. He
does later.
Points out the obvious first.
But what's aggravating, though, is the fact that he's saying the same thing to Miz that he's doing. It's like a hypocrite. It's like, man, you sure you don't give enough donations to the Salvation Army. I never give to the Salvation Army, but you never give to the Salvation. It's like, dude, stop being a hypocrite. Stop doing exactly what you're saying they're doing. You're saying they're saying the same things, then stop saying the same thing every time you talk. Just go into something different. Come out of a different way. I'm so sick of that. I just wish John Cena would calm down and look, find a no path. I mean, I get it. You're the incarnate of Hulk Hogan. But, maybe change it up. Don't be like Hulk Hogan and say the same 5 lines and bring up something else. So I think that, Cena did a good job, like I said. I don't hate on it. I think he did what he needed to do against Miz, because if it would have been, like you said, Sean, if it's just The Miz, it's kind of ho-hum. Like, I get it. The Miz will have something to say, but John Cena and his own verbiage adds something to this. I just didn't like his whole hypocritical statement right there. That kind of bothered me. The extra stuff,
well, like, but Miz was being, like I pointed out, Miz was being a hypocrite too. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of it's a tough situation. But I mean, The Miz is a heel here, and I guess John Cena's trying to play that whole. I can dip into that gray area. I can dip into that whole. I don't care if the crowd hates me or not. This crowd loves him.
I do like the half insult that Miz throws out there, which is probably maybe one of the best things about the promo, was like, you're not even John Cena anymore. Or like, you can't be full John Cena anymore. You're not even half decent Cena.
That was good. I have to admit, that was good. Once again, I appreciate the realism. The remarks that they're making back and forth. It feels real, and that's good. That's exactly what you want. That's what's going to hook people into this whole thought process. And outside of that, I can't hate too much. I think it was a decent beginning, the way to start the show compared to whatever else they could have done. I liked it. Adding in, of course, the Maurice thing, slapping John Cena, and you bring out Nikki. We knew it was going to happen eventually. It didn't have a big surprise feel because we knew it was coming. Unless you didn't know about, the news, maybe you're a WB fan, you just don't read the news, then you're probably surprised a little bit, or maybe you kind of saw the writing on the wall like the rest of us. I don't know. That doesn't feel super special to me. It'll probably be something fine, but I have a feeling that this is about really Miz and Cena. This is not anything. I think, the wives aspect, or the girlfriend, and of course the wife, the Maurice is the Miz, that just adds a little bit more of a dynamic here. But to me, unless they heat that up between Maurice and Nikki, I almost don't care about them. They got to find a way to get those two going.
Yeah, they already did, though. They had Maurice whack her with the pipe last week.
Yeah, but I mean even more like verbiage and things like that, like actually speaking back and forth and things. And the actions are fine, but I want to see more. I want to see, hear them actually talk.
Oh, I'm sure that they'll have their moments, know, and all that. But like, it's you gotta. They had to start somewhere, and they probably think, well, let's start with the men, and then we'll go trickle it down to to Nikki and Maurice later. Like, Nikki and Maurice will have their thing, but that's also because we just had, like, all of Natalya and Nikki's feud was them taking barbs at each other, and the same thing with Carmella, right? Carmella's feud with Nikki was taking barbs at Nikki, so I think they probably felt like, okay, let's start with obviously people that they're going to care about Cena more, and let's have Nikki play that role of, let's have her come in and say something.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the way they did it is great. Let's just see where they go from here, like you're saying. But I don't know. You've seen every single person that has gone against Nikki take those same barbs at her. Maurice doesn't have a leg to stand on in that regard, because Maurice is a model and she doesn't need the Miz. Maurice did it more for I love the Miz and whatever, and then she retired, right? And I don't know. The thing is Maurice just going to take those same shots at Nikki, and then it's going to be the same cycle again and again and again, So
yeah. I guess I think I'm trying to find a way, and I think you make a good point here. I want to find a way to care about this match, and I think that for a halfway point, I kind of do care about it, but I'm still not even 65% caring. I'm about 50, maybe 45, but outside of that, this is going to be one of those matches I'm going to be watching WrestleMania and saying, okay, hurry up and end. I want to see the next match. Come on, let's get this one over with. At this point, I want them to heat it up. That way I do have feelings of, man, I want to see it. I want to see this tag. I want to, get excited about it. Right now, I'm not there. And it's kind of unfair because it just started. So it's not fair for me to sit here and say that. But I think I'm going more on my fears of the future. And that's what I think I'm basing this off of. But outside of that, like I said, this is fine. They did what they needed to do. I just got to have more reasons to care.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. It is about giving you reasons to care. So moving away from that. We spent plenty of time on that there. So they had. I already mentioned Natalya before. They had some things with her here. Let's go ahead and get into what the women did on the show. They had a 2 out of 3 falls match between Mickie James and Becky Lynch. This was good. Nothing great here. I don't remember them announcing the 2 out of 3 falls until they come back from commercial, which I thought was kind of silly. But, I feel like if you would have announced the match as a 2 out of 3 falls at the beginning, it would have helped you more. But yeah, they had like 2 commercials in this, and it was kind of unnecessary. And yeah, again, this was good, but it wasn't anything that like, oh wow, I'm really thinking about this past this show,
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and this did not feel special at all. And I think it is for the fact that, like you said, they really didn't announce this. At least I didn't hear it myself, Sean. I thought maybe you had heard it, so we both didn't catch it if they announced it somewhere in this show. But, just for the fact of a match that, probably should be built up better. That we've seen it before, don't get me wrong, so we're not seeing a breaking, story here of, oh man, this match is going to be awesome. This is not going to, a breakthrough. This is just now a match that we've seen before, and one that's okay, but I think the stipulation kind of helped, but not overly. It really didn't add too much more to put this one over in my book. So, it is what it is. Becky Lynch, wins, and I think that's the direction they have to go. I think really honestly, it felt like this was just a match thrown on here just to get a good match, to get people watching, especially with the, what's going on with the election, presidential stuff, not election. My God, that was over with. But the presidential stuff happening, I think they were trying to find a way to keep people watching, which is fine, but I don't think it was overly great.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. We'll have to see if this is the end for them or if they're going to keep this going for sort of no reason, but we'll see. Alexa Bliss herself already looks like she might be moving on to something else. And this is really weird because if you're going to have a heel versus heel match, I don't know what you're going to do here, but because I don't know that people are all of a sudden going to start cheering for Natty, but Alexa Bliss gets interviewed. This is one of the many Oscar references that they make on this show because, my God, we didn't do it enough on Raw. We had to keep doing it on SmackDown. Look, we know the Oscars happened, WWE. We don't need to be reminded constantly that they did. Okay? And you were not on the Oscars at all other than the Bella Twins, and you were not nominated for anything. So why the hell are you continuing to just basically be free propaganda for the Oscars? Just shut up.
It's probably part of the contract. It was probably like, okay, hey, we'll bring the Bellas if you sign a deal saying you'll talk about us constantly on your 2 shows.
God, I hope not, because nobody really... Who watches the Oscars later?
Yeah, I know.
You watch it when it's happening.
It's a joke, but you're right. Yeah, but it is kind of like, man, come on.
No, but you're right. Probably something was done like that. Like WWE probably said, "Oh, we'll mention the winners or whatever." I don't know. Sometimes those conversations do happen, but it's just like just stupid. Anyway, Alexa Bliss thanks Naomi for having bad knees and horrible coordination, which was funny. Then Natalya kind of comes in and she's, notes that they both had big wins and that, you may think it's all about you, but when I take the title from you, you won't think it's too funny. And, pretty much Natalya sort of putting her name out there that she's been watching Alexa and that she's coming for her. Nothing too crazy.
You know what? I have a feeling that, we kind of get either something we kind of talked about, but this is kind of pointing once to me. I think we could even have another SmackDown women's multi-person match and a multi-women match here because I'm like you. Really, you're going to have these 2 go at it. They're 2 heels. really. I mean, don't know how many people are going to get behind that, get excited, and I definitely don't think you're making it. Natalya look like she's a face. I definitely don't think Bliss is going to look like she's going to be a face. So I think you're going to have some other names dropped in this hat, and whether it be maybe some returning stars that we haven't seen in the past or from the past, or maybe just throwing in, some other people. It's got to work out a different way, and I think you're going to have Becky Lynch involved in that too. You've got to really, especially on WrestleMania, you got to have Becky Lynch in the mix somewhere, and I think she'll be in this title mix. So, if it not, I'm really concerned. But for the time being, it can be Natalya, but I don't like it per se.
Yeah. Well, again, this is one of those. I have a feeling everybody's going to get, you have Nikki involved in the mixed tag, but then you're just going to have the other 5 women, or is it 6 women involved in the in a match for the title, probably, just because they don't have anything else for them to do, and Alexa's eventually going to go through everyone if they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, both Luke Harper and AJ Styles get promos. Harper talks about fighting against his demons. He's going to win the night, and, Bray Wyatt is going to be scared after he wins. AJ talks about Harper's feet hitting first, that this match shouldn't be taking place, but, hey, he's going to go out here and win and be the outright winner. This was pretty good. Harper got to look good here. There was dual chants going on at one point. Then AJ wins because of the phenomenal forearm, and then the foot's on the rope for Harper. Shane McMahon comes down to say that, hey, his foot was on the rope. Referee should have seen it. Match continues. Then Harper accidentally super kicks Shane on the outside, and Styles hits the springboard 450 so he can win. Harper basically got beat really quickly twice. I don't know that really made him look good, but this was sort of almost felt like an angle so they could keep the thing with Shane McMahon going. And not so much, I don't know. Yeah, Harper looked good here, but maybe it was more detrimental than good by the end of it. And is he going to be in a title match, or is it going to be, what are they going to do? Are they going to involve Harper in the Shane McMahon thing? I mean, this is interesting now, I guess.
Yeah, isn't it weird, right? I mean, because we really kind of thought there would be a different, procession here, and it could still end up the way we were kind of thinking. We were kind of thinking, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, and Luke Harper all in a match, triple threat for the SmackDown title, and WWE title, whatever you want to call it. But I don't. Now with this whole thought process of, well, Harper technically, kicked Shane, and there were rumors going out there, AJ Styles is going to be facing Shane McMahon. Unless some way now they lose this number one contendership off AJ, it looks like they're going a different route. And I can't say I don't love it, because I want AJ Styles in one of our main events at WrestleMania. I think it'd be a shame if he's not. Especially, I don't think anyone wants to see him face Shane. That just sounds like the biggest waste of time in the world. But anyway, I think you're right. Luke Harper right now kind of seems like a odd man out in a way now because of this whole incident and with AJ going on. So there's one of two ways they go. The Harper finds a new route and either faces someone like, maybe Shane McMahon or someone else, or this becomes more than a triple threat. It becomes a fatal 4-way, something like that. I mean, but I think, what we get later in this show could also have a little bit of a contradiction, maybe more of a direction where we could be seeing that take place. So I don't know. I'm happy for right now AJ Styles, because I think he deserves to be up there. I think Luke Harper does too. He's got great potential. He's still got time, though. He doesn't have to be in that right now.
Very true. We'll have to see any repercussions there on they basically ended Talking Smack after about 10 minutes. because Shane McMahon came in and said, "Hey, Daniel, we got to talk about what we're gonna do with the world title." So that's it. So obviously, I guess next week that'll be one of the things that we have to look forward to about what they announce when it comes to that. But for now, AJ Styles is no more contender. Perhaps there's more muddling that goes on when we get to the later part of the program. But for now, this is how things are. Let me make sure that before we covered everything up to that point. So after this, you have Dean Ambrose. He's supposed to have a match with Kurt Hawkins. Dean Ambrose comes out and just gives Kurt Hawkins the dirty deeds. The match doesn't even start. And he wants to have a fight with Baron Corbin. And that's pretty much it. So.
Yeah, this was a fine, situation for both of the guys. I mean, Ambrose does his normal thing. He's funny. He kind of talks his game. And then, of course, you have, Baron Corbin coming out there and just sputtering out his normal, I'm going to beat you. Me and you are just alike, but, you like to take a beating and I like to give them out. Things like that. That's Baron Corbin's, doing here. And I like this. It's not something over the top. It's nothing like, they're getting in the ring and knocking each other, for a couple of hits and then they're just moving on to the next thing. At least this is something to where we can say, okay, I get it now. I get where they're coming from. This is nothing huge, but at least it kind of gets us down the road until they actually do physically have some interaction.
Yeah, certainly. I think we're pretty much guaranteed some kind of Street Fighter Falls kind of newer match or whatever at WrestleMania, so they're kind of just biding their time at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I did kind of flip back and forth between the dress at certain points here when you get to this match. So Dolph Ziggler and Apollo Crews have an okay match here. They do have a chair get involved. I did like Crews getting an angle slam onto the chair on Ziggler. Ziggler cheats and rakes the eyes. And then slams Crews' throat first. And then he crotches Crews on the chair too and wins. So Dolph being a dick again, doing all the dastardly deeds of heels to win. This, nobody really cared though, and that's the problem. Nobody really cares about Apollo Crews, and nobody really cares about Evil Dolph either. So
yeah. It's like, hey, let's see, what could we put on while the president's talking? Oh, I got it. Two guys that no one even blinks if they're on TV or not. They don't care.
This is also sort of the dead part, what you would consider the dead segment, like before the main event. So,
Yeah. A cool down, right? And it definitely kind of was. I mean, yes, it was a chairs match. I get it. People may have been pumped for that. I didn't expect overly too much in that because of the fact that I knew that really wasn't going to be Ziggler crushing, Cruz's leg again. I knew that wasn't going to happen again for the most part. I knew they'd find something else, and that's kind of what they did here. But, I mean, I just look at it as, Dolph continues to torture, Apollo, and we'll see where they take this. But, man, right now, I don't think anybody cares, especially me. I could care less with this whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a lot for you to care about here. So we get to our main event segment, and this is where things get interesting as far as why Shane and Daniel Bryan had to deliberate, and we knew we were going to get to this point. There was no way they were going to have Randy Orton just win the Royal Rumble and not use his title shot. That would just be weird. So Bray Wyatt's out there talking about AJ Styles it is, and, they are mere mortals, and I am a god, and AJ Styles is going to wind up like the rest of the people, and, we suddenly get the Titantron turned on because Randy Orton is at where the Wyatts live, or whatever. And there's, the barn again that we haven't seen in a long time, and the rocking chair. And apparently Wyatt liked Orton so much that he got keys to being there. And so we find out that underneath the floor where the rocking chair is and where Randy Orton's standing lies Sister Abigail. And he pulls out a pick to kind of signify that he might have put her there, or that sort of also signifying perhaps that Bray Wyatt might have killed her, because he talks about, oh, do you remember the last time you saw Abigail? You said it was when you saw her draw her last breath. So did Wyatt kill her? Or did she just die of natural causes? Or what happened here? But either way, eventually we get to the point where Randy Orton says that he is going to become the man with all the power, and that Wyatt is going to be powerless, and he's going to become the servant. So then he pulls out a thing of gasoline, starts pouring it all over the barn, goes outside, lights one of those big long matches, and then burns the compound. And he is posing as Bray Wyatt is slowly going insane and banging his head against the announce table and all these things to show that he is upset. And I love this. This adds an extra layer to this. I don't know how you're supposed to cheer Randy Orton here. He's burning a man's house down. But, I really like this. This was a strong ending to the show. And now Orton's back to being Randy Orton, that dastardly snake.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure how they were going to do this, and this is a different way than I kind of expected, only because I kind of thought it was going to be an RKO out of nowhere incident which caused this whole dissension, and it was just really Randy Orton biding his time and doing it on video, so when you see this, I mean, you do have those questions in your mind that Sean kind of brought up, what happened to Sister Abigail? Did Bray murder her? Is all his power really encompassed in that one spot and all those type of things? So I understand where they were coming from on that, and I kind of like it. I can't say I hate it or anything. I also kind of thought I was watching ECW at some points of this, though, especially the way Bray Wyatt was kind of freaking out and all this over something like this incident. It was kind of hokey in a way, but it made sense. And so you get on down the line with that. But I think that both these guys, have played this role pretty well. I think Randy Orton did a fine job in the way he presented himself and his, points, and the way he kind of set up the whole table for us to understand how special that spot was he was standing on. So I think Randy Orton did a great job of that and really making it matter. And, of course, you have Bray Wyatt with all the actions really selling that it was important. So I really want to know the next chapter of this. I want to see where it takes Bray. Does Bray really not have any more power anymore? Does Randy Orton really gain anything out of this? Was Bray Wyatt lying to Randy Orton about really the real holy place, right? Because, maybe Bray Wyatt's not as stupid as Randy Orton thought. That also kind of crosses my mind. Maybe he's not, but I kind of thought to myself, maybe Bray Wyatt is willing to make Randy Orton think that he's okay and comfortable with him, but maybe he's not really. So we'll see. That's what makes you want to watch the next SmackDown, right? I mean, and that's exactly what I love. I think, Sean, you pointed out that you love this, and I love it for that reason of its intrigue. It brings you to that next chapter, and you just want to turn the page to see what's going to happen. So I think they did a fine job with it. And it also brings me questions to, what could happen. And we mentioned the number one contender with AJ Styles. And, of course, if Luke Harper still is in that picture, maybe, possibly. Now you're adding Randy Orton to the picture. There's a lot going on here. And a lot circling around what's going on with Bray Wyatt. And is he going to be powerful? Is he going to be powerless? I don't know. But I have a theory for WrestleMania that you may or may not agree with. But I definitely want you to share. Is there anything that you wanted to kind of build on from here?
No, and we both liked what happened.
So my thought process, and this is kind of crazy, Sean, but let's say we get to WrestleMania, and Bray Wyatt is your champion still, and you've got Randy Orton coming against him. You got a Luke Harper coming against him, and maybe even an AJ Styles. He's got to have some backup somewhere, right? I wonder if some Hardy Boys would be interested in coming in and being a part of this whole thing. They probably wouldn't come off a broken gimmick, but maybe they could come off a dark gimmick, kind of like, the Wyatt.
Oh, hold on, what now?
Think about it. So let's just say Bray Wyatt's back is going to be against the ropes here at WrestleMania, because he's probably going to have more than one contender in a single match for the title. So he's going to be facing off probably against at least two guys, if not three, right?
Right.
At WrestleMania 33. So he's got to have some backup somewhere. Usually Bray Wyatt always does. What if somewhere and somehow he's able to retain the title because he has some broken help with the Hardy Boys showing up?
Maybe.
Think of the twisted thought process. And now it's a WWE version of this. It's not what we're seeing on Impact Wrestling, but it's a new version of this, more of a Wyatt version of a broken Matt Hardy and of a Jeff Hardy.
I don't think that's gonna happen. Like, I just don't. I mean, they could do that. I mean, it's possible. They could just. You never know. You never know. I just think that if like, let's say TNA says no, you can't take the broken gimmick with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You could be right. You could be right completely. I just don't want to see them be doing a watered down version of it. It's like, for me, I'd rather you're either going to do it or you're not. Like, if you're not allowed to take the gimmick with you, I'd rather you have your gimmick that you were doing and WWE waters it down than, oh, well, now we're going to do something similar, but you're not going to be the Broken Hardys. You're going to be like a member of the Wyatt family. And, like, we've already got, Eric Rowan's officially cleared now. I mean, it doesn't mean he can wrestle, but he could make an appearance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is he going to get involved in all this? How's that going to work? We still don't know if what's his face is, Luke Harper going to make any kind of appearance here or anything of that nature. So, I think that you're right on, and that it could very well happen if these guys do show up at WrestleMania, like, is being talked about or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah, I'm bringing this up just to bring it up, really. It was a fleeting thought that I had, and that's something that could take place. But to be honest with you, I don't even believe what I'm speaking, because I think if for some reason, those two guys are on WrestleMania this year, I have a hard time believing that they're going to be shadowed by a current superstar. I think that, them going with, Bray Wyatt would basically be saying, oh, we're serving Bray Wyatt. And I don't think that's how you get Matt and Jeff Hardy showing up back into WWE. I just don't see that. I could be, maybe what I'm saying is going to come true, and I'm going to be sitting here, and near future saying, wow, I can't believe I got that. But I don't really think it's going to happen that way. But I wanted us to kind of think about that, if there's any group that's close to being broken as Matt Hardy, is or was, whatever you want to say, it's got to be the Wyatt family. Outside of that, there's nobody kind of close to that gimmick. So, who knows? But I just wanted to throw that out there into the universe, see how it landed.
You never know. Like we talked about yesterday, we do officially know that they're going, but how and when they're going to show up and how they're going to show up and whatever is something entirely different. So, sorry, I just got some kind of alert that this system that comes out on Friday, apparently Walmart, I don't know if it's a mistake on Walmart's part, but you can pre-order it on their website. So I'm sitting here thinking about whether or not I want to make that decision.
Uh-oh. Sean's making big purchases right now. People, hey, we'll see.
Well, no, it's just like I don't want to do it, and then it says you can pick it up at your store. Oh. It's not one of these like Amazon where you press the whole, okay, it's going to ship to your house, and you do run the risk of, well, they might delay it. It says I'm going to get a receipt that tells me I could pick it up on Friday with everybody else. And it's like, well, I don't want to do this, and then something happens, and I paid for something that may take like 2 months for me to get,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's I did like the whole effect of the burning of the house. Like I that visual of Randy Orton standing there with him posing with the fire was pretty awesome.
It's the whole back and forth thing I liked. Going back and forth in a quick manner, back to the fire, Randy Orton, back to Bray freaking out, hitting his head on the ring, the corner post and all that. Things like that I appreciated because it really did feel like it was a tense moment, right? Something that was just really emotional, and I appreciated that. So, and it's kind of hard to do that, especially when you're showing a video on a Titantron and a guy in the ring. But I think they did a perfect job of mixing in both, and it, like I said, it added to the intrigue of what's going to be next in this chapter, and we're left there kind of with our hands in the air, saying, "Man, I'm excited, but what could go next?"
Right. So that's the end of SmackDown. That's all that was on SmackDown this evening. So what do you think about for a rating? I thought it was one of the better SmackDowns.
Yeah, it was a good SmackDown. I wouldn't say great, though, from my personal perspective, because they did have that excellent ending, a decent beginning, but the middle of it was kind of there. I think AJ Styles and Luke Harper gave you enough to be happy with. And, I don't even think Becky Lynch and, what happened there was bad at all either. For me personally, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think that this SmackDown was much better than maybe the 3 hours of Raw. I'm going to go 6.5. I don't think it was just as great as I wanted it to be.
That's fair enough. I'll say a 7. I really enjoyed this. She had a great opening and great ending, and I mean the wrestling wasn't great by any means. There's really nothing that you need to go out of your way to see. You probably watching AJ and Harper wouldn't be bad, just so you know what's going on there. But I don't know if, like I just talked about, that there's anything totally big that you need to watch. Right, so.
Yeah. Well, you want to see Carmella and that whole thing, right? That was
that's funny for the, I guess, 5 minutes that it lasts. It was pretty funny. Like she just stands there and is like, "Hey, you're not gonna let her talk to me like that." It's like, and. It's just funny the way that
it's so silly. James Ellsworth, I mean, as much money as they're probably paying him to do very little, it's still funny. The guy still kind of has a little bit of weirdness about him, but he's still kind of funny where you're like, I love the guy around, even though he doesn't really do a lot. So I'm looking forward to next week's SmackDown to see how this mixed tag is going to work and how long it's going to last, all of 2 minutes.
Right. So yeah, that's gonna do it for SmackDown. And
yeah,
we'll see you later, everybody, on next week.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.